Well, this morning we're taking you to the other end of an emergency call and inside the 911 Operations Center as Edmonton Police mark National Public Safety and Telecommunicators Week. Kay Anderson is the director of the Emergency Communications and Operations Branch, and Jenna Garner is an Emergency Communications Officer. Welcome to you both. Thanks so much for being here. Jenna, I'd love for you to just take us into a day in the life of someone who's working the phones for Edmonton Police.
Yeah, so you take emergency and non-emergency calls, you answer 911 calls, you're just transferring to all the agencies, you can talk to EMS and fire on a day-to-day basis. You also, if you're a dispatcher, you'll dispatch members and you'll help them behind the scenes on the radio and whatever they may need.
So you're laying out the game plan in emergencies?
Yes.
Yes, well that's a very big job. Kay, there was a graduation ceremony yesterday. How many people were usually graduating to this? What's the interest in this job like?
Yeah, so the interest is very high. Only 6% of our applicants are successful in becoming an emergency communications officer. And yesterday we welcomed 28 new ECOs.
Wow. So what does that take? If someone wants to take this on as a career, what's the process to do so?
Yeah, so we have a pretty lengthy application process. It is quite similar to the sworn recruiting process within Edmonton Police. So you go through an interview, there's computer testing, and then psychological testing as well.
Okay, so pretty extensive stuff. Jenna, for people who are calling, what should they expect? I think people know to call 911, but maybe not necessarily the process when they do. What should people know about an emergency call?
Yeah, when they answer or we answer the calls, they have to give the address of their emergency and their phone number. They're going to be transferred to the correct agency, police, ambulance, or fire, and then answer all the questions we're asking. Those questions are not delaying our response time. We can send help to you while you're answering our questions. Those are important questions.
Okay, so while you're asking those questions, what are you doing behind the scenes?
I'm typing and I'm relaying information to the dispatcher, who is then relaying that information to the officers on the street. So all those questions are going to the officers, and they need that information so that they can assess the call prior to coming.
Okay. Kay, when should someone call 911? When should they not call 911?
Yeah, so 911 is only for emergencies. We do still see a high volume of non-emergency calls on 911. So things like a power outage or a parking complaint are not appropriate for 911. You should really save that for a life and death situation where an urgent response is required.
Jenna, I imagine you have some stories on this, but do you have one or two calls that you thought to yourself, I can't believe you're dialing 911 for this?
Yeah, somebody had an apartment flood and they called 911 for that. I had to advise them that that's not something we can deal with. I've had power outages, like Kay said. I've had multiple people getting mad at their orders in the drive-thru being incorrect and stuff like that. Those are not appropriate calls, but yeah.
It happens sometimes,
Yes.
but please do not do that because that just ties things up. It's already very busy. Kay, this is an important question too. Sometimes people call 911 by mistake. It's a lot easier now with the buttons on the phones. What should you do in that situation?
Yeah, so it's really important to just stay on the line. You won't be in trouble if you called 911 accidentally. We'll just verify to make sure that there isn't an emergency. And the one piece of advice I have is to not give an old cell phone to kids because they can still call 911. And people often don't realize that, so that makes up a large number of our false calls.
Very interesting stuff. Well, thank you so much for being here. Thank you for your service to the city. If you'd like more information, you can go to 911maketherightcall.ca.